What is up, fam? So today I wanted to share with you a little bit about my self-healing journey. So a little bit over a year ago, I started journaling regularly, and I use a process of journaling called Future Self Journaling. It was developed by Dr. Nicole LaPera, aka the Holistic Psychologist on Instagram. And it's really interesting, I came across her account, I'm not even sure when, and something about it resonated with me. I don't even remember the first post I saw, but it was, early last year. And it really struck a knowing, you know what I mean? Like you read something and you're like, yes, that feels right to me. And then I continue to follow her stuff, and it's funny, it's like you find things when you're ready for them. And so I had been on a path for however many years. I don't think I really knew how unhappy I was, or how much anxiety I was living with, and I had a number of incidents happen right in a row. And a little backstory, my dad had been diagnosed with early onset dementia probably 13 years ago now, maybe 14. And it was a really ugly and slow descent into a really heartbreaking journey. And I learned a lot about myself, and it sent me on a journey that I am forever grateful for. So I do really believe things happen as they're meant to, and I really believe that I was sent on the journey I was sent on for a purpose, and it's brought me here. So I'm hoping you find some value in this. But my dad passed a little over a year and a half ago, or a little under a year and a half ago, Christmas of 2018. And then I had two more things kind of slowly happen after that. I had a friend pass away, and then I had the loss of a close personal relationship. And the three things together kind of, they left me really just messed up, right? Or just, honestly, I say messed up, but when it comes right down to it, was probably the most beautiful one of the most beautiful moments in my life of just rawness and pain, and coming to this realization that something needed to change. And it wasn't the things that happened outside of myself or outside of my control that needed to change. It was what was happening here that needed to change. So I had been watching the Holistic Psychologist, and I had been watching this Future Self Journaling for months, and I've never been a journaler. I had a journal in my nightside table. I started it I don't even know how many years ago. I was going to start a gratitude journal. It never stuck. And my point is, you're ready when you're ready. When you finally had enough of your own bullshit, you finally had enough. and so I started journaling, and she has this great resource. It's got all the prompts, and I wrote a blog when I was done with 90 days. And so I wanted to share with you what I learned after 90 days. And then I want to follow this up with another blog or vlog with a recap of a year, because it has been over a year now. Go me. And I have been very consistent with it. It's the only time in my life that I have been consistent with journaling. As an athlete, I was very consistent with my training journal, but as far as self-reflection goes, never have I been steadily writing in a journal. So after 90 days, I wrote a journal. It is on my blog, What Would Cave Women Do? I will share that in the comments of this. And I wanted to share with you, I've got my notes here. I wanted to share with you what my recap was after 90 days, and some tips and tricks that I kind of took away after 90 days. And then I'm gonna follow up with my 1 year recap, because a lot changed in the next year compared to 90 days. So so the 90-day recap one of my tips was one of the first things you'll do with the future self journaling prompts is you will focus on one thing that you want to change, something you want to shift in your life. And it's funny, like, well, why would you focus on what you don't want? And the thing is you're focusing on the thing that you want to shift, because the thing is as you put your focus on it, then you can kind of gain awareness around it, if that makes any sense. So for me, I stuck with the one way being that I wanted to change for the first 49 days of journaling. Like, I was really like sticking on the one thing. I don't even remember what it was. But essentially it's a way for you to gain insight and awareness into the thing that you want to change, right? If you follow any of Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, it's focus on the way that you have been and the way that you want to be, right? Which is similar to this. It reminds me of this. So yes, so I, over the period of that 90 days, I think I only focused on 2 different things, and that I wanted to shift in my life. What was cool is once you focus on that thing, and you've created awareness around the way that you don't want to be, what happens is it opens up a gap. So it's like there's this gap in your reaction. So if you are focusing on being less angry, and you are going to shift your pattern of being angry, and you feel anger arise within you, and then you have an awareness that has arisen, then it opens up this tiny little gap where you get to choose. And so I like to say it's kind of like a choose your own adventure, because typically what happens is we just get into old patterns, right? And because we don't have an awareness around that we're being a way that we don't want to be, we're just being the way we've always been. And so that gap basically creates a moment of choice for you. Do I want to react to this as I've always been, or do I want to create choice? And do I want to create peace? Because it's not easy, right? Sometimes you're choosing against your biology, like your biology is telling you to react, and you have to choose something higher than yourself, which is not always easy. The other thing is it creates that connection with conscious awareness. So often when I leave my journaling to the end of the day, I notice that I haven't had as good of a day as I do when I do it first thing in the morning, because essentially by giving myself that little point of intention in the morning and that little point of connection in the morning to what I don't want and what I do want, I'm able to create greater conscious awareness throughout my day. So basically creating a practice of daily presence reminds me to be present daily, and hopefully more than just daily, moment by moment. The other thing was gratitude. So gratitude is a part of the daily journaling. That was my original reason for getting my journal, which, oh man, it's not here. Okay, when I do my 1-year recap, I'll show you my journals that I've filled, because I'm on journal number 3. And it is a practice I would not trade for anything. And gratitude is a part of the daily journaling. And the thing I would recommend on gratitude is to get very, very present with it. I think when we think about gratitude, we often think about what we're grateful for, but we don't actually feel what we're grateful for. Does that make sense? Like, we think about, oh yeah, I'm just so grateful for my family, or we're grateful for the really simple and easy things, which we should be. But I know for me, I've written about gratitude in the past, about being hard, or being grateful for the hard things in your life. Like, how can you cultivate that? How can you cultivate gratitude for that? Because sometimes a gratitude practice, we can get into the routine of it and kind of almost lose a little bit of the meaning. And so really feeling what you're grateful for, like really stopping and not just writing, I'm grateful for although sun on my skin, although I say that pretty regularly because I am grateful for that, but really connecting with what you're grateful for and like just like what that feels like in your heart. So that is important to me. And I mean, that goes for all of it. Like, to be really present with what you're writing and to feel it is, I think, super important. The other thing is, when I write about my future self, I continually grow the story with more detail when I had the time on those days. So what it would be like to be that future version of myself, to imagine the scenarios, to even imagine, and this is kind of like a manifestation thing or even a meditation thing. I've done guided meditations where I walk people through their ideal version of themselves, where what does she wear, what does she look like, how does she move, what are the things, like who are the people she's around. But for me, on the days when I have more time, I would cultivate a greater sense of picture in my mind of who this future version of me was, because I really want to connect with her, and she's pretty freaking cool. Like, she's super cool, like she is, and she comforts me, and she reminds me of the truth, and she reminds me that in this moment there was always choice. And that I don't have to listen to those old stories, and that I can believe and choose to implement new stories for me in my life moving forward. So really feeling into that, right? Again, with Dr. Dispenza's work, he talks about feeling those emotions, those high vibrational emotions, helps us remember a new version of ourselves. So, which is what I really feel like future self journaling has done for me. And then fully embodying those emotions is like super, super important. And essentially, like, if we're going to really show up in this world and give the world our gifts, which I believe we all have special gifts, unique talents, and things that we can share with the world, we really need to embody those ways of being, right? This is also this idea of visualization in sport. Like, there's all kinds of research about how visualization in sport, and I have a background in high performance sport, and visualization was such a huge part of what I did daily in practice, in competition, visualizing yourself achieving what it is you want to achieve before you've even been there, and what that feels like, right? And this is no different. So another tip with the future self journaling. So when you start, anytime you're building a new habit, right? Like, we can miss days. So when I started, I absolutely missed a few days. And it caused me to reflect on when I retired from professional sport. I was so hard on myself. I was so hard on myself about doing my training, about making sure I was there every day, about making sure I did every single set, right? Like, it was like very perfectionistic about it. I was very regimented about it, and there wasn't a whole lot of wiggle room. And when I didn't follow through with what I said I was going to follow through with, I was really hard on myself. And, fast forward, I've got a couple kids. I'm not an athlete anymore. Does it really matter if I miss that day of training or if I don't get there? Because guess what? Training isn't the highest priority for me anymore. It's just not. And I'm not saying it's not important. It is. But at the level that I was getting down on myself about it, it wasn't worth it. And I realized the judgment of missing the session was actually the thing that was holding me back more so than just missing the session. And I found that to be exactly the same with the journaling, right? Really holding yourself with kindness and compassion if you miss a day, and just getting back on the horse and doing it again. Or even just giving yourself a smaller goal that I'm going to journal every single day. I'm going to make sure I write one line every day. And if you get to the end of the day and you're exhausted and you don't have time to do the whole future self journaling, just write one line. I love you. I showed up for you here right now. Because it will get easier the more that you do it. I kept a running day count, and I counted if I missed day 3, when I went on day 4, I counted it as day 3. So I kept a running total going. And in my 1-year thing, I'm going to tell you how many days in 1 year I actually journaled, because I did count them, because I was curious. And also it was like giving myself a little cookie. It was like, go you're doing it, like you're getting it done. Because a lot of the time we get paralyzed because we miss a day and then we don't do it for a month. And here's the thing, if you did 25 days out of 30 in a month, you would be better off than having done 1 of 30, right? So my pro tip there is keep your day count going. If you only have time for 5 minutes, pull out your journal or a scrap piece of paper, write down one thing you're thankful for. It doesn't have to be like the whole prompt of the whole thing. It's showing up is enough. The judgment has got to stop so that you can move on and step into a new way of being, right? The judgment is an old way of being. We want a new way of being. Okay, another tip, celebrate, right? Celebrate. Like, man, like praise makes the world go around. Joseph McClellan III says that. He's one of my favorite people. And it's true. And it's true for our own personal landscape, as well as praising our children and our partners and the people that we love in this life. And so praise makes the world go around. Celebrate your journaling. Celebrate the milestones. When you make little points of awareness, when you make a different choice, when you feel a feeling of deep love and gratitude, when you show up and you create that gap and you make a different choice moving forward, celebrate, my friend. Like, that is all breadcrumbs on the road to your future self. Like, so big. Like, give yourself that hug, give yourself that love. Like, you so deserve it, because you are making choices like that go against every way of being that you've ever been. So be proud of that. If you don't know what you're doing, that's okay. It really is. I have people reach out regularly and they're like, well, am I doing this right? It's like, just do it. It's really okay. I noticed, like, when I went back after 90 days, I was doing one of the prompts wrong, right? Is there any wrong way to do it? It's self-reflection, right? It's learning. It's growing. Like, you can't do it wrong. So it's like, if you mess up that one little part, and you're doing it slightly different, like, it's okay. The intention is there and you're putting in the work, and that is enough. That is enough. So at the end of this life, if you show up consistently for you, you'll get to close your eyes and be with someone you really trust and love, right? Like, that's what I think about. Like, at the end of this life, when I lay down and I'm sitting there with me, am I with somebody I like? More importantly, am I with somebody I love? Am I with somebody that took care of me? Am I with somebody that fucking stood by me? You know, like, that stuff is just beautiful. And then the last tip I'm going to give you is start. Just start right now. Take out a pen and paper and just, even if you just write something you're grateful for, even if you just write an affirmation, even if you just tell yourself something beautiful or something that you want to accomplish, get the journal and print out the prompts later and just start, because you're worth it and you deserve that life that you really want to create. So that's pretty much what I got there. I know, like, when I started Future Self journaling, I was really lost. I was lost in a lot of ways, and I was also found in a lot of ways. And so it has been a really beautiful process of getting to know me, of showing up for me, of learning how to cultivate new levels of awareness, which then allows me to cultivate new levels of who I am and what I have to offer this world. And I believe that is a lot. And so that is why I'm here sharing that with you. And I'm going to wrap this up here. And then when I do my 1-year review, tune in and you'll see how that moved and morphed over the year. All right. Love you. I hope this was useful. And yeah, that's all for now, my friends.